Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the live game review. Everton 1, Liverpool 4 at Goodison Park last night. Everton's biggest Merseyside derby defeat at Goodison for something like 30 years. I thought it was of all time, but it turns out I was corrected on a number of occasions in the comments of the Instant Match reaction yesterday. It wasn't of all time, but it still wasn't great, was it? Let's be honest. The fact that it's been 30 years doesn't really make it any better, does it? It was another absolutely shocking result. Another absolutely shocking defeat. And you know what, considering a lot of Evertonians went into this game last night sort of expecting, I think, a result similar to what we had, and obviously expecting Liverpool to quite comfortably manage the game and control the game and ultimately go and pick up the 3 points, there was still an awful lot of frustration, there was still an awful lot of anger, there was still an awful lot of upset in the fallout of the game yesterday, and rightly so, by the way, rightly so. Obviously there was some unsavoury scenes towards the end of the game, certainly some chants and I suppose criticism aimed at the board and those board members that were in attendance at Goodison Park yesterday. We know, of course, from earlier on today, Moshiri wasn't in attendance at Goodison Park. He was in the United States of America. I don't know why, but obviously Everton aren't the most important thing in his life, and that's fine. Look, that's fair enough. If he knew a thing about football and he made a right decision every now and then I wouldn't particularly mind Everton being, not the most important thing in his life. The fact that he doesn't know anything about football and he can't make a right decision makes it a little bit more sour. But as I said, it wasn't great, was it? It really, really wasn't great. Barring a period of about 10 or 15 minutes where I think we come back into the game and we started to cause... It's difficult to say started to cause Liverpool some issues, because obviously we got the goal at 2-0 to get back into it at 2-1, and then we were sort of holding the ball, getting forward but not really doing much. I don't really think Liverpool were ever under much pressure, but it was our best period of football within the game. But other than that 10 or 15 minute spell and then 10 minutes at the start of the second half, Liverpool were just all over us. And look, they're a wonderful footballing side. It absolutely kills me to say it because I hate them. But they're a wonderful footballing side. The players that they have at their disposal are so much better than the players that we have at our disposal. And when you gift a player like Mohamed Salah, who is arguably the most informed, forward player in the world at the moment, when you gift him 2 one-on-one opportunities, you are going to concede 2 goals. He simply doesn't miss those chances. And I said this in the Instant Match reaction yesterday, what's starting to piss me off an awful lot with Everton is we come up against these sides that we know have got an awful lot of quality in them. We know have got some of the best players in world football, and instead of making it tough for these teams, instead of making it hard, making them battle, making them fight for a win, we almost gift them chances. Liverpool don't need to be gifted 2 one-on-ones. Mohamed Salah doesn't need to be gifted 2 one-on-ones with a goalkeeper. He's a wonderful footballer and he scores goals every single week, yet we still persist on making these stupid individual mistakes and gifting people opportunities, and that was always going to be the case yesterday. Liverpool found it far too easy to play through us at times. Our midfield was very non-existent, but 2 of the 4 goals they scored come from direct defensive errors, and the other 2, again, as I said, the first one could have been defended much better, and the 4th one, I think the players had all gone home at that point, to be honest with you. But I want to start this last game before we get into the game, and we are going to talk about the game, and we're going to have another bit of a conversation about the board, and obviously the scenes that we saw towards the end of the game, towards Marcel Brands. Marcel Brands had a little bit to say, the most he's ever communicated with us in the 4 years he's been here. It was last night, and he only said 5 words. Bill Kenwright obviously was getting a lot of stick, then he's back at Baxendale. But I want to read out a statement from Everton owner Farhad Moshiri as of this morning in regards to the situation at Everton, and more specifically Rafa Benitez's role as Everton manager. Obviously the pressure was piled onto Rafa Benitez after yesterday's defeat, as you would expect. I said it months ago before he come into the football club. What happens if we're in a bad run of form and we're 2-0 down in the Merseyside derby and them lot are singing his name? I was told that that's a negative mentality and that's a bad way to look at things. Look what happened. We were in a bad run of form. We were 2-0 down in a Merseyside derby in 20 minutes and they started singing his name. So anyway, as I said, a lot of pressure piled on the manager, not just after this game and the fallout of this game, but prior to this game, obviously with the Brentford defeat. 1 win in 11 is just simply not good enough. And again, tactically, Rafa Benitez has to be held accountable. It's mad at the minute with Everton, because it seems like you can't. It seems like you can only have one opinion, or you can only go one way or the other. It can only be that you want Rafa Benitez to stay and you think that none of it is his fault, or you want him to go and you think that it's all his fault. I've put on Twitter over the last couple of days, over the last couple of hours and stuff since the results, and I've said on these videos about Rafa Benitez's tactics, and I'm told it's not the manager. Stop blaming the manager. We've had injuries, we've had little to spend in the transfer market. What about brands? What about the board? I'm not saying I haven't got an issue with all of those other people at the football club. They are much bigger problems than Rafa Benitez, but ultimately Rafa Benitez is responsible for starting 2 men in midfield against one of the best 3-man midfields in Europe. Awful tactical decision. Rafa Benitez is responsible for not bringing on another striker last week against Brentford when we were 1-0 down with half an hour, 40 minutes to go. Rafa Benitez is responsible for taking Solomon Rondon off yesterday. I know he was injured, but replacing him with Anthony Gordon and completely changing the system. Not having that focal point to aim at, because Solomon Rondon, it was his best game in an Everton shirt yesterday, and he wasn't brilliant. He didn't create any chances. He didn't cause him, Liverpool's defence any massive issues, but he put himself about. He worked hard. He held the ball up. He was that target man, and all as Everton seem to be doing at the moment is lumping it forward and aiming at Solomon Rondon as the target man. And more often than not, he hasn't been good enough to be able to deal with that. Yesterday, he was much better at doing that. But all I keep hearing from people is, in the media and even some Blues, which is an opinion, and it's fine, obviously everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but all I keep hearing is, it'll be alright when Dominic Calvert-Lewin comes back, we'll be brilliant when Dominic Calvert-Lewin comes back, it'll be all sound. Well, is the tactics not still going to be lump the ball up to Dominic Calvert-Lewin and see what happens? Because it hasn't worked with Solomon Rondon for the last 2 months, so is that not going to be the same tactic with Dominic Calvert-Lewin? Lump it up and expect him to hold it up and then rely on the other 3 around him to create chances and score? Is that all Dom's going to be? The fella that is on the end of those long balls? Because I don't really want to watch that type of football. So you absolutely can be in the camp of putting fair blame on Marcel Brands, and we're going to talk about Marcel Brands in a little bit. Bill Kenwright, Farhad Moshiri, but you can also blame Rafa Benitez. I'm not saying that Rafa Benitez, if he gets sacked tonight or tomorrow, which the statement we're about to read suggests that he won't, but I'm not saying it'd be slightly unfair on him, because he has been unlucky. He's been unlucky with injuries. He's come in, he's had no transfer budget, but at the end of the day, as I said last night, the situation that Everton were in when Rafa Benitez was employed, the fact that there was already a percentage of Evertonians that were against the appointment before he'd even stepped through the door, indicated that Rafa Benitez was never going to be able to cope with having a couple of injuries and having a very little money to spend and going on a run of 1 win in 11 games, no win in 2 months. He was never going to be given that amount of time, and I honestly don't think Rafa Benitez will come back from this defeat. I'm not saying he'll be sacked, because as I said, we'll read out the statement from the owner in a moment which suggests that he won't be sacked. However, I don't think he'll ever come back from this. I think Rafa Benitez leaving Everton Football Club now is an inevitability. It's an inevitability. It will happen sooner rather than later. Whether it happens next week, if we lose to Arsenal on Monday, the week after, it will happen at some point in the coming weeks, in my opinion, because I don't think he'll come back from this, especially given the fact that we are now in a relegation battle. Simply, it's the truth. We're in a relegation battle. I look at the Premier League table and I think, okay, you've got Norwich and Newcastle who will likely go down. Those 2 teams are more than likely, down come the end of the season. But 3 teams get relegated at the end of a season. That leaves 1 other spot. Now, Leeds were a side that were talked about as being in that sort of area of being in that, that other spot. I watched them the other night against Palace, and yes, they scored the 90th minute penalty, but their press, their effort, their determination, their desire was excellent. It was absolutely excellent, and that win, you could tell, lifted the entire club. So what's to say Leeds aren't going to go and pick up a couple of results on the bounce now? Everton are in real trouble. And Wayne says not just Rafa, Cam, any manager would struggle with Everton at the moment. I agree, absolutely. And this is where, again, as I said yesterday, there's an element on me that feels slightly sorry on Rafa Benitez, because I think had he have been another manager, he might have got a little bit more time. but I just don't see him coming back from this with the majority of Evertonians. I just don't. And I think the board will get to a point where they sack Rafa Benitez because they'll want to appease Evertonians in any way, shape or form. But anyway, let's get into where the club stand currently as of this morning. This is a statement from Everton owner Farhad Moshiri. He said, yes, football is about crisis one day and glory the following day. Rafa is a good manager and underperformance is largely due to injuries. Firstly, that's a load of nonsense, but we'll carry on. He said, next 2 weeks we will get back to a full squad. In the meantime, results will improve. Rafa needs time to have his mark on the squad. He will be supported to add depth to the squad. Managers need time. I have no doubt we will have a strong second half to the season. Now, that was in response to whether Farhad Moshiri will back Rafa Benitez. So, obviously, he said yes. Now, reading that statement and being a fan of maybe another football club, you would think, oh, that's good. You know, the owner's come out and addressed the fans. He's come out via the club and addressed the fans after yesterday's defeat, addressed the situation with the manager, addressed where the club is, where the club wants to be. No. What's happened is he's ran to his mates in the media, and Jim White's got in this morning, dropped him a little text while he's in the States doing whatever he's doing on holiday or whatever, and he's texted him back. Now, that for me, I've got a massive problem with this statement. A massive, massive problem. And it isn't the fact that it states that Rafa Benitez will be given more time. It's the fact that the owner of this football club has thought that rather than coming out and addressing us as Evertonians, because by the way, without us, this club are fucking nothing, mate. Absolutely zilch fucked. Nothing. Without Evertonians, nothing whatsoever. Build your brand spanking new stadium. If there's no bastard to sit in it, what's the fucking point? Without us as fans, this football club, like any other football club, we're not special. Like any other football club, this club is nothing without the fans. And Farhad Moshiri has deemed it more suitable to text his mate in the media and allow him to come out and release a statement on TalkSport than sit down in front of a camera and address us as fans. Or even if you'd say, oh, he might be confident in front of a camera, he could have sent that text message to Everton's media team and they could have put the statements up. And we could have sat here and gone, he's addressed us as a club. I don't feel like Farhad Moshiri has addressed me as an Evertonian there today. I feel like he's addressed Jim White for all of those listening on TalkSport. And the majority of people that had been listening on TalkSport were probably fans of other football clubs or fans of other sports that just so happen to be listening to the station. So I don't feel in any way like I've been addressed to by the owner of this football club. I feel like the owner has addressed his mate in the media, and his mate in the media has gone, I'm going to read this out on air here. Get to fuck, Farhad. Seriously, get to fuck. It's an absolute disgrace. If there was any time in the past 6 years of his reign as Everton owner or his time at Everton Football Club, if there was any time more than other that he should have been coming out and addressing us as Evertonians, and that the Everton board should have been coming out and addressing us as Evertonians, it was after last night. It was after that debacle. It was after that shambles. Come out and state your stance. We're sticking with the manager for this, that reason. We mightn't agree with it, but they've come out and they've stated the stance. Don't run to your fucking mates in the media and say, oh, do us a favour, Jim, put this out for us, and then surely someone will hear it, and then they'll pass it on and they'll pass it on. Come out and address us properly. And that goes for everyone within the football club. Marcel Brands last night was confronted by a very angry Evertonian after the game, an Evertonian that had every right to be angry, and he was vocally heard saying, do you think it's just the players? This Evertonian was giving him loads of stick about the recruitment, loads of stick about the, what's going on at the football club. And Marcel Brands' 5-word answer was, is it all the players? As in, is the blame all to be put on the players? What are you trying to say by that, Farhad? Marcel, do you not agree with the manager? And do you not like the manager's tactics? Do you think he's the problem? Do you think Bill Kenwright's the problem, who you're sitting next to? Do you think Farhad Moshiri's the problem because he's sat in fucking the United States somewhere? What are you saying by that? Because what he's doing there is defending the playing group, but he's not saying it'll get better or things are alright or anything like that. He's saying, is it just the players? So that's an indication that Marcel Brands believes that there's something else wrong with the football club. And there is, we all know it. And he is part of that problem, by the way, which we'll go on to talk about later on in the live stream. That's the only 5 words we've heard Marcel Brands say to us as fans in the 4 years that he's been here. Why isn't he coming out and sitting down, talking to us as fans? Why wasn't he out in the summer talking to us about not signing a right back, which we'll elaborate on later? Why isn't he coming out and addressing us as a fan base? Why does it take an angry fan going over and confronting him for him to speak up? Because for me, the Marcel Brands situation is very, very easy. He's either not being allowed to do his job properly, which begs the question as to why did you sign a new contract? Have you got no professional pride? Are you only in it for the money? Or he's not good enough. It's one of the two. He's not being allowed to do the job properly. He's not being allowed to take control of his role, i.e. he's got somebody else in his ear, or he isn't good enough. Either way, he shouldn't be at the club, should he? Because if he's not good enough, he should have been fucked off. And if he's not being allowed to do his job properly, then why hasn't he walked out of professional pride? I'd love to know. I'd love for, Marcel Brands, along with Farhad Moshiri, to sit down on Toffee TV or the Toffee Blues or here or Blue Boys Network or anywhere and talk to us as fans. Stop fucking going to your mates. Stop going to Jim White for a start, because he's not an Evertonian. He's got fuck all to do with Everton. I get he might be your busy mate and you might be dead close and you drop my little text message here and there. I don't give a fuck. He's got nothing to do with Everton Football Club, so stop conversing with him about Everton. Tell him things that we already know, fine, but don't be going and giving exclusive statements to him and completely blanking the club's official media and us as fans, first and foremost. And Marcel Brands needs to stop going over to Dutch media as he's done in the past and talking about Everton, and come out and sit in front of a camera or write an article or write a statement to talk to us. Because the club will be sitting there now and going, well, we don't need to address the fans, because Farhad addressed the fans on TalkSport and Marcel said a little bit after the game as well, so we don't need to address fans. Fucking nonsense, mate. Absolute nonsense. So that, as I said, that's my biggest issue with that statement from Farhad Moshiri. He set his stall out. We're going to back the manager. We believe that injuries are, the problem, and when we've got a full squad, things will get better. That's fine. That's fine. I disagree. I personally disagree, because we've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Yerry Mina are the only two players out injured. They don't solve our midfield problem. They don't solve the problem at right back. They don't solve the problem at left back. They don't solve the fact that we're not creating chances, because Dom's not a creator of chances. So I disagree. I really, really disagree in that statement. And I also think that Farhad Moshiri, as I said yesterday, would rather not be proven wrong than make the right decision for the football club. And I'm not saying that I think Rafa Benitez should go, but what I'm saying is I think it's a matter of time before Rafa Benitez leaves the football club now. It's an inevitability. He's lost the change. He's lost the fans. There was an article on the on the Athletic today talking about how certain key players within the squad feel like that they're confused and they don't really know what decisions he's making and why he's making them. So he's obviously lost the dressing room as well. So yeah, as I said, I think it's a lazy response from Farhad Moshiri, but also, why are you going through TalkSport? Why aren't you coming through the football club in itself? But people are right. Rafa Benitez isn't the only problem with the football club. He certainly isn't. And by the way, I've got no problem with Jim White. I've got no problem with Jim White whatsoever. But he has got nothing to do with Everton. So stop going through Jim White to talk about Everton Football Club. Talk to us as fans. Because as I said, listen, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and that's fine. But please let me know. If you're watching live now, 140 odd people watching, that's amazing. If you could hit that like button, it would be absolutely fantastic. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Just hit 5,100 subscribers, so that's absolutely amazing. Thank you very much. But please, the 140 people in the live chat now watching, and if you watch this YouTube video down below, please let me know. Did you feel when you read that Farhad Moshiri statement today, or you listened to Jim White reading it out, like Farhad Moshiri was talking to us as a fan base? Or did you feel like he was talking to his mate? It's like, if it wouldn't be accepted in any other business, would it? It wouldn't be. It wouldn't be accepted in any other business. If you ran an IT business and your employees were absolutely fuming at you, or your customers were absolutely fuming at you, sorry, not your employees, because you had I don't know, broken every computer in the world or something, and then you went out for a bevy with your mate and had a private conversation about, what your plans are and stuff, and then that private conversation got out to your customers, would your customers feel like you were talking to them? No, because they'd say, well, all you've done is had a conversation with your mate, and then we've heard it's secondary through your mate. That's this situation. Farhad Moshiri wasn't talking to us. He simply wasn't. So yeah, as I said, there is bigger issues at the football club, and that is one of them. That today was the epitome of everything wrong with Everton Football Club at the moment. He thinks he's doing well by releasing a statement and by backing the manager, but in reality, he's doing it in completely the wrong manner. And as I said, listen, if they want to back the manager, that's fine. But judging by an article on The Athletic this morning, it seems like he's lost the dressing room, and judging by the reaction at Goodison Park yesterday, it seems like he's lost, well, I'm pretty sure he's lost the fans. So, yeah, anyway, let's get into talking about the game then, because we're going to have to. I know there's probably a lot of Liverpool fans watching. You're not going to get a bite out of me. You're simply not. One thing I also want to address as well, before I go further into it, is that I gave a lot of stick to Paul Tierney yesterday, and I still stick by the fact that in the stadium it was one of the worst refereeing performances I've ever witnessed. Now, I've had a load of Liverpool fans who obviously watched the match at home, because where else did they watch the match? Saying, they were dives, and Townsend dived, Gray dived, even Gordon dived, etc. I'm not going to lie to any of you. I haven't watched the game back, and I'm not going to lie again. I won't be watching the game back. So maybe they did Maybe they did dive. And maybe the referee was right to book them. So I'm not going to mention the referee, because, as I said, I haven't watched it back. A lot of people, even Evertonians, were adamant that they were the right decisions, and I'm not going to watch it back. So we won't be mentioning Paul Tierney again, other than the fact that he was awful yesterday. Anyway, let's get into it then. So obviously, the lineup comes out an hour before the game, as it does every single match day. And Rafa Benitez has gone with a strange lineup, to be fair. A really, really strange lineup. A lineup that I don't think many people expected. Obviously, Jordan Pickford started in goal. A typical back four: Luca Dean, Seamus Coleman, Michael Keane, and Ben Godfrey. And then he remained with the two in midfield: Abdoulaye Doucouré and Alan. And then, of course, he had Richarlison back in the team after his suspension. He had Demarai Gray, obviously back in for his first start since the injury against Manchester City, and Josh Townsend and Solomon Rondon up front. Now, for me, I was really confused at this, and it wasn't even because Solomon Rondon had started up front, because I actually thought Solomon Rondon had his best game for Everton yesterday. I really, really didn't. And some people won't like me saying that, and some people will disagree, and some people will laugh, and this, that, and the other. But I actually think Solomon Rondon had his best game in an Everton shirt. Now, obviously, at quarter past seven, when we found out the team news, we weren't to know that was going to be the case. So a lot of people were frustrated at the Solomon Rondon decision, and that was fair enough, because before last night, Solomon Rondon had done nothing to prove that he deserved a start in that game. But I thought he'd done okay. He wasn't great. I'm going to sit here and say he was amazing. Didn't create any chances, didn't score any goals, didn't even think he had a shot. But he gave something yesterday. Again, it says something when we're sitting here and we're, the only positives we can look for are the fact that players done something. They didn't score, they didn't assist, they didn't have an impact on the game, but they just done something as opposed to doing nothing. That's where we are as a football club at the moment, but he did. But my problem wasn't that particularly that Solomon Rondon was starting. My problem was that Rafa Benitez thought that he could match a three-man Liverpool midfield. A three-man Liverpool midfield, by the way, which is fantastic. Fabinho, Henderson and Thiago work really, really well. They're one of the best teams in Europe, and their midfield is one of the best midfields in Europe. The fact that the manager believed that he was going to be able to stand up against that with two in midfield, one of whom being Alan, who is about as quick as me nan, and the other being Abdoulaye Doucouré, who, okay, is quick and gets about the pitch and can move about, but is only just coming back from a quite significant injury. That baffles me. And that's where I'm saying about the criticism for Rafa Benitez. You can criticise the manager without it being, completely against the manager. And again, yesterday, Rafa Benitez does not go without criticism. Robbo, you're getting booted out, lad, to be honest with you, because you're just causing shite, and you're literally watching an Everton team on a Thursday afternoon. So, see you later, fella. Yeah, he doesn't escape criticism. You know, Rafa Benitez, and you know, for all as far as Moshiri wants to come out and say injuries and, you know, we didn't have the money to spend this, that and the other, not seeing that we needed to play three in midfield yesterday to have any chance of combating Liverpool's midfield is just a baffling situation, in my opinion. A baffling situation. I'd have had Delph in there next to Alan, and I'd have had Decore in that, you know, further forward role, allowing Decore to get forward, get forward, try and create chances, try and, you know, again, be a bit of an attacking threat. We obviously saw him have a shot in the second half, which was, you know, had, I think, Thiago blocked it. Had he not been there, it would have certainly gone in. And he, you know, we've seen at times this season, Decore has been more than capable of playing that forward role. Delph would have given a lot more support to Alan, and ultimately we'd have been able to match up 3v3. Now, we knew yesterday we were never going to be able to match them for footballing ability. They're a wonderful footballing team, and we aren't. It's as simple as that. We were never, ever, ever going to be able to stand up and play football with them. It always had to be scrappy if we were going to get anything out of the game. And our best spells, that 10 minutes before the end of the first half and the 10 minutes at the start of the second half, our best period was when we were battling, and when it was a bit, you know, it was a bit scruffy. It was a bit hard. There was hard work there. There was determination. It wasn't great, but it was a lot better. And as I said, I don't see how he thought that a 2-man midfield would be able to combat a 3-man midfield, and we saw it. We saw it in the Blue Note says new backstop looks belter. Thank you very much, mate. It's the same one I've had for a while, but thank you very much. 170 people watching, by the way. 43 likes. If you could get the likes up, that would be absolutely brilliant. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. I know there'll be a load of reds disliking this, even though you can't see the dislikes. They'll still dislike it. So if you're a blue and you're watching, even if you're a red and you're watching and you think this is decent, hit that like button, please. It means a lot. And subscribe if you're new. So that was the first, as I said, that was my first big problem with Rafa Benitez yesterday, was before the ball had even been kicked, I could not understand the decision to not play three in midfield and to go into that game leaving us massively exposed. Because we could see in the opening 20 minutes, Liverpool were 2-0 up in 20 minutes, but they had two chances in the opening 5 minutes that they could have been 4-0 up. In the opening 20 minutes, they missed a header, which come from a corner that they got instantly from kickoff, and they missed another chance as well. And what we saw yesterday was, for the majority of the game, Liverpool were comfortable in passing the ball around and controlling it. And, you know, when, yes, we had a lot of possession, but we never really done anything with it. But in those periods where we were getting forward and we were maybe starting to look like more of a threat, I still wouldn't go out and say we look like a massive threat, but we look like more of a threat. We were so exposed in the midfield, because the simple thing was, the Corey was trying to get forward and get in those creative areas. Nice one, David. Appreciate that, mate. And get in those forward areas to create, thus leaving Alan as the only midfielder. And as we've just said, Alan technically is a decent footballer. He gets about, he puts himself about, but he's nowhere near quick enough to combat that 3-man triangle midfield that Liverpool had. And we saw it on 3 or 4 occasions that they didn't score. They'd had absolute space to burn. We just had nobody in there. And as I said, had he have started Delph in that midfield, you'd have at least had somebody else with Alan to be able to stay back and combat that. But we didn't. We only had Alan. One simple pass took Alan out the game, and they were running at our back line. And that happened throughout the entirety of the game until he decided to bring Delph on, by which point it was game, set and match. And I think Liverpool had already, you know, put the slippers on. So again, for me, you know, we are going to talk about the players in a second, but the manager takes criticism for that. He does. He takes criticism because you simply... We were playing one of the best teams in the league yesterday. Now, take away that it's Liverpool, take away that it's a Merseyside derby, take away Rafa Benitez, Jurgen Klopp, this, that and the other. We were playing one of the best teams in the league yesterday, and we thought that we could combat a 3-man midfield with a 2-man midfield against one of the best teams in the league, the way we've been playing and the form that we're in. it's absolute. It was a baffling decision. But yeah, as I said, the game starts and it was quite possibly the worst first 15-20 minutes of football I've witnessed in a long time as an Evertonian. It was weird because we were holding the ball and we were having the possession, and I think the crowd were almost sort of reacting to that a little bit. They didn't look like they were particularly bothered about getting the ball, but I think deep down in every Liverpool player's mind, and probably all of the fans as well, they knew that we could have had the ball for, you know, an hour straight. We were very unlikely to create anything with it, whereas one mistake and they got the ball and they were clinical like that, because that's what they are. They're clinical. You know, you don't have Mohamed Salah, Sadio Mane, even Jota, who again has been brilliant this season, if you're not clinical. And that's exactly what happened. We had the ball in spells. We weren't really doing much with it. We weren't really doing anything with it. They got it back. They stormed forward. As I said, our midfield were nowhere to be seen. They had a couple of chances in the first 5 minutes, and you know, we were very unlucky to escape of not conceded the goal. And we didn't wake up. We didn't wake up to that. We didn't wake up and think, right, these have had 2 shots here in the opening 5-10 minutes. Let's fucking wake up here, because otherwise they're gonna score. We didn't. Again, they get forward, and at this point we knew it was only a matter of time. They moved the ball in. Henderson's on the edge of the box. He curls it round, and it's 1-0. And Goodison goes flat, as you would expect. 1-0 down in the opening 7-8 minutes, whatever it was, in the Merseyside derby. The ground just went flat. And again, we kicked off, and we reverted back to that. We were having the ball, and they were sort of happy to allow us to have the ball. And that was obviously part and parcel of their game plan, that they knew, right, these are going to get forward and try and press us. We'll just defend it, and then they'll have left fucking loads of space in the midfield. Lo and behold, a couple of minutes later, we get forward, try and cause them problems, try and cause them issues. They defend it really well, move it into the midfield. Absolutely no one in the midfield to combat it. And Ben Godfrey, who at this point has got a decision to make. Does he go with Salah, or does he go with, I can't remember whether it was Mane or Jota at that time, and he just completely turns the other way, allows Salah to run off him. And as I said before at the start of the scene, you can't allow somebody like Mohamed Salah a one-on-one opportunity. You simply can't. This fella scores goals for fun. He doesn't need helping to score goals. He simply doesn't. He doesn't need us to go, here, have a one-on-one. And that all come from us trying to get forward and create something, leaving all of that space in the midfield. Alan couldn't deal with it all game. Godfrey makes a bad decision. Salah runs off him, and it's 2-0. All of a sudden, 20 minutes in, not only are we 2-0 down, we could have been about 4-0 down. And, you know, I've seen a lot of Liverpool fans saying, and your fans were leaving this, that and the other. Oh, how embarrassing, leaving at 2-0 down. To be honest, I think a lot of fans went to get a pint and a sausage roll, because when the second half kicked off, there wasn't an empty seat next to me. There was a lot of empty seats when it went to 2-0 down, but they filled back up as soon as the second half kicked off. So I think a lot of people just went down to get a pint, if I'm being honest with you. Some might have left. But again, as I said, we're 2-0 down. You know, the pressure's starting to pile on. And it's that dreaded scenario that we talked about when Rafa Benitez was employed. We mentioned, you know, as one of the risks that this could be the case. What happens if this happens? 2-0 down in the derby, bad run of form, they start singing his name. Lo and behold, they start singing his name. You know, again, there's no real emotion on the sideline. And then we get back in the game. It was at this point that Solomon Rondon's performance started to be highlighted. I think the crowd grew into it a little bit, because you could almost sense that there was right, we're probably going to get absolutely bollocked now, so let's get up and have a go. And in doing that, the players sort of had a go. A couple of tackles got through, and as I said, the ball was getting launched up to Solomon Rondon. He took it down a couple of times really, really well, played it off really well. That got the crowd going as well. And then in the last 15 minutes of the first half, we had a go. We got at them. We battled, we caused them problems. Their away end started to quieten down an awful lot, and they were making mistakes. Now, not mistakes to the point where Everton are making mistakes, where they're giving us one-on-one opportunities, but they were misplacing passes, they were being forced into corners, and you could see the likes of Virgil van Dijk was almost looking round as if to say, what's going on? Sort it out. And at this time, we'd had a couple of opportunities. Townsend has one where he goes over again. I initially thought it was a foul. Some people don't think it was a foul. Gray had one where he got into a really, really good area, and you could see that there was a shot on. There was an absolute clear as day shot on, and instead he tries to take it round the player. He gets defended. He had another one where he gets kicked and he goes down, and again, there's a decision to be made there. Paul Tierney thinks it was a dive. Personally, I thought it was a foul, but again, I haven't seen the replay, and I won't be watching the replay either. And all of those little moments and periods were lifting the crowd, because there was evidence there that we could get in good areas, we could move the ball around, and maybe if we could just get a shot off, we could cause Liverpool some issues. And then the goal come. We're 2-0 down, 10 minutes to go before half time. We really needed to score. Richarlison gets the ball, plays it through to Gray, very similar to the goal against Burnley. Gray runs in on it, slots it past Alisson. It gets a deflection off the goalkeeper, of course, but doesn't make any difference. Back of the net, and all of a sudden, we're back in it. Yes, we were still very unlikely to get anything out the game, but when you're 2-0 down and shipping chances left, right and centre, and then you start to show a bit of grit and you get back in the game 2-1 with 10 minutes to go, before the end of the second half, that confidence comes back. I think the crowd reacted to that fantastically. I think you started to see the crowd up. And the players reacted to the crowd as well. The press was higher. As I said, Rondon was running his arse off. Richarlison was there. Gray and Townsend were picking the ball up, moving forward and trying to create something. And I actually think we ended the half the better team. I think we ended the half on top. Now, look, obviously, we weren't unbelievable in that 10-minute spell. I'm not sitting here saying we had 400 chances and we were unlucky to not equalise. We didn't whatsoever. We didn't have any real clear chances after Gray's goal, but we were causing them problems, and I don't think any Liverpool fan could disagree with that. We were causing it. We were certainly making it harder than we were for the opening 20 minutes. They were basically, as I said, it was shorts and flip-flops holiday for them in the first 20 minutes, whereas in that last 10 minutes it was actually like they had to concentrate a bit and they had to play footy, and that lifted the crowd and that lifted the players, and the players then reacted. And as I said, I thought we ended the first half strong, confident going into half time. And I turned round to my dad at half time and I said, listen, this is either going to end 2-2 or about 4 or 5-1. I said, the half time whistle has come at the worst time, because they will come out and reset, and it'll be their first 10 minutes of the second half will be like the first 10 minutes of the first half, and we won't be able to carry that momentum in. But we'll talk about the second half in a moment. I do want to talk about the players. I do want to talk about, obviously, recruitment, Seamus Coleman, Marcel Brands, all of that sort of stuff as well. One thing I will say before we get into the live comments, because we will be getting in the live comments, by the way, 230 people watching. That is just absolutely unbelievable. If you could hit that like button, that would be fantastic, by the way. If we could get to 100 likes, we're on 72 now, that would be absolutely perfect. And if you are new to the channel, as I said, don't forget to subscribe. That would be fantastic as well. But one thing I will say before we get into the comments and talk about the second half is I thought it was brilliant to see Gray back on the scoreline back on the score sheet yesterday. He's needed that goal for a while. He's struggled over the last couple of weeks in getting goals and creating chances. Obviously, he had the injury against City, and he needed that goal. Obviously, first Merseyside derby goal, which was brilliant to see, and as I said, I think it was really, really good to see him back on the scoreline. Anyway, let's get into the live comments. Once again, as has been for the last 5, 6, 7 live streams, there is an absolute unbelievable amount of comments, so it's going to be difficult for me to get through all of these before the end of the live stream and still talk about the things that I want to talk about, but I'm going to get through as many of them as possible. Thank you all so much once again. Same old Everton says, hard to defend Rafa at the moment. It is when he's making mad tactical decisions like the one that he, again, like I said, playing 2 in midfield instead of 3. Rondon for Gordon, I never thought was a straight stop. I'd rather have had Tosin up there, and at least he could have acted as the target man. And if you were going to bring Gordon on, bring him on for, Townsend or Gray. Townsend wasn't doing much at that point. Hernandez says, how is it even possible that Farhad Moshiri has answered for all the criticism, but still nothing but a Twitter video of Brands is being added backwards to this club? Well, the Twitter video of Brands hasn't even come out from the club, has it? The Twitter video of Brands has come out from an Evertonian who was filming another Evertonian having a go at Brands. And I don't even think Brands knows he's being filmed, otherwise he probably wouldn't have said it. Rafa out, says Sean. Interesting. Will says, Moshiri's the problem, and this is his problem. He never likes to admit when he's wrong with an appointment. He's a joke. Sababy says, are we getting players in January because our FFP is bad? And Moshiri said we will sign players. Well, to be fair, I wouldn't take Moshiri's word for it. He said a lot of things in the past that haven't rung true. Something about a Fab Four rings a bell. Benitez out, says Joseph. I can't even pronounce that name, but they're clearly a Liverpool fan. Not Joseph, the next comment. Sababy says, do you know anything about the Aberdeen right back? Heard it'll be 10 million to sign him. I don't know much of him, if I'm being honest with you, mate. James says, I wasn't even there last night because I'm ill. I hope you get better, mate. Sorry to hear that. I hope you get better. But I'm glad I didn't go, but the board has to go big time. They're dragging us towards the championship with the way they run this club. Completely agree, mate. David says, no players with 150 million in the red with FFP. Yeah. Jason says, I calm and everybody. James says, as for the manager, I can't see any way back for him. I agree, that's my stance on it, mate. Aaron says, I back Benitez. It's the club owners who are the problem. His substitutions are a bit stupid, I can't lie. Yeah, I agree. Again, I don't particularly think I would feel slightly unfair on Rafa Benitez if he was to lose his job now, but I do think it's an inevitability. I do. I just think it's an inevitability that he will leave the football club at some point in the coming weeks. And he doesn't escape criticism. I refuse. I've been a big sort of advocate of Rafa Benitez, and I've been very vocal in talking about the board and the other issues of the football club, and I'll continue to be, because it's not Rafa Benitez's fault the club are in the situation they are now. It's not Rafa Benitez's fault that he couldn't spend money in the summer. It's the board, it's the previous appointments, it's the 500 million we've wasted over the years. That's the fault, not Rafa Benitez. But I refuse to sit here and not criticise his tactics, not criticise his team selection when I think it's so baffling. Connor says, regardless of the backing in the market, his tactics are lacklustre. He hasn't adopted his tactics to modern football. The board is lacking, but Moshiri's little pet project is failing. Hernandez says, I thought I couldn't feel lower than I did yesterday. It hurts so much more today. I hope that we had a load of loan players ready for January, because this just won't do. Yeah, I said it yesterday. For me, it was one of the darkest days I've known as an Evertonian. It really, really was. And part and parcel of that is because of who we lost to, and the fact that the majority of us will have friends and family and partners who support them, and it's horrible to see other people loving life and lapping it up and enjoying, and you're sitting there sort of soaking in your own misery. But that's Everton, isn't it? I suppose. When's it ever been any different? Certainly not in my lifetime. John says, Rafa has got to go, and to be a technical genius, he's shocking. Sabi says, the fans should have asked why we didn't sign a right back. And James says, for me, the manager has become more irrelevant now because of the incompetence of the board. Well, yeah, listen, I'm glad that the issues with the board are now starting to become highlighted. I really, really am, because the board are an absolute disgrace, and they've been running this club into the floor, into the ground for a long, long time. And it isn't just Rafa Benitez. Yes, I think Rafa Benitez is at fault. I think Rafa Benitez joined Everton Football Club at quite possibly the worst time. Everybody was down after Carlo Ancelotti. We needed somebody that was going to galvanise the club, get it back together. Last season was shit, even under Carlo Ancelotti. The board decided to bring in a man who was always going to be 2 or 3 losses away from meltdown, especially a Merseyside derby loss where them lot are singing his name. The disabled team says, loving the content, new subscriber. Thank you very much, my mate. I really, really do appreciate it. Anyway, let's get back into the game. We will get back in the live comments very, very shortly, so keep getting your comments in. If you are enjoying, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe as well. So yeah, we come out for the second half, and as I said, the first half was very much, it was both sides of Everton. I said on Tuesday in the preview that there's a volcano of emotion ready to erupt in Evertonians, and we're going to see it erupt one way or the other, whether it comes out in a positive vein or a negative vein. And we saw both sides of that yesterday. Towards the end of the first half, we saw that positive eruption of emotion. The fans were getting behind the team, the players were sort of reacting to that, and it was great to see. We come out in the second half, and my big fear in the second half was that we'd start the second half in a similar vein to what we started the first half, i.e., very slow, gifting them chances, gifting them space, and allowing them time to control the play and basically do what they want. And they'd start it quick, getting forward and creating chances as they did. But it wasn't the case. The opening 10 or 15 minutes of the second half as well, we continued where we left off in the first half. We were, for me, again, I'd say we were the better team. I know a lot of the Liverpool fans are going to go, better team, shut up, you'd only have possession, this, that and the other, all of this nonsense. But we looked the more threatening. They again looked a little bit worried. They again looked like they had to put it into second, third gear rather than, the typical reverse gear that what they were in the opening 20 minutes of the first half. So we had that 10-minute spell at the end of the first half and that 10-minute spell at the end of the at the start of the second half where we looked like the more interested team, and the crowd again reacted to that. The crowd got up and we were pushing for that equaliser, and the players were pushing for that equaliser. Solomon Rondon goes down, and obviously Rafa Benitez makes his first substitution of the game. Another substitution that was wrong for me. I can't remember the last time Rafa Benitez made a decent substitution, to be honest with you. I really, really can't. As I said, again, I understand Solomon Rondon had to go off. He was injured or his fitness or whatever. But Solomon Rondon, it was his best performance in an Everton shirt yesterday. He was holding the ball up. Okay, didn't score. Didn't do an awful lot. Didn't assist. Wasn't great. But he was holding the ball up and he was causing that Liverpool defence to at least have to think when they were defending. And obviously he went off and and Anthony Gordon come on, and I wasn't completely against Anthony Gordon coming on, but I just don't think it was the right change, because what Rafa Benitez done then was he had to change the system then. He had to change the style and he had to change the way we were playing at a time that we were, again, looking like we were more likely to get an equaliser, certainly, than we were at any other point in the game. He brings Anthony Gordon on, Richarlison goes up front, and as I've said before, and I'll say again, Richarlison isn't that type of striker. He's not a big target man that you can hit the ball up to and he's going to take it down and control it and play it off for other people. That's why Solomon Rondon was brought in. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is that type of striker. He's big in the air, he can control the ball. Rondon was giving Van Dijk issues at times yesterday. Richarlison was never going to be that. Richarlison is the striker who needs the ball played across the floor to him that he can run off on, as we saw at Anfield in February, running behind the defenders, getting through on goal. He's not the type of striker that you lump the ball up to and he takes it down and he holds it up and he plays it off to other people. That's not his game. So he changed the personnel, and he changed the as I said, the personnel by bringing on Gordon and putting him on the wing and putting Richarlison where Rondon was. But he didn't change the tactics. He didn't change the way in which we played. He didn't adjust and say, right, okay, we've got to take the target man off now and bring on a young winger. So what we'll do is, instead of just lumping the ball up to Richarlison, we know that's not his strength, so we'll change it around. We'll try and play it across the floor, move the core a little bit further up and try and get, Richarlison in behind the defence. We didn't. We just continued to lump it up towards Richarlison, and he never had as much joy as what Rondon did. Movie James says, get the likes up for Cam, everyone, he's a good lad. Thank you very much. If you could get the likes, but it'd be amazing. Just did it under likes, by the way, so thank you all very, very much for that. And I do think that was part and parcel as the reason as to why we slowed down massively. But look, ultimately, at the end of the day, the third goal was the killer, wasn't it? The third goal was the decider. And the irony is, the third goal actually comes from an Everton corner. But not only does it come from an Everton corner, it comes from an Everton free kick on the edge of the Liverpool box. We were still pressing, we were still trying to get back in the game, we were still trying to trying to find that equaliser. Anthony Gordon's come on at this point, he gets fouled. Again, certain people that have watched the replays or watched it on the telly seem to think he dived. I was watching it in the ground and I ain't going to go back and watch it again. And we get a free kick on the edge of the box, and Andros Townsend steps up, which I don't have much problem with because, Andros Townsend can hit a ball. He's shown that before. I don't know if he's shown that he can take a free kick, but he's certainly shown it before. And he hits it and it goes out for a corner, and you're thinking, right, okay, an opportunity, a chance, get back into it now. That would have been a prime time to score an equaliser, the prime time to score the equaliser, get back in the game and put them on the back foot. Corner comes in, gets defended, lumped out, and Seamus Coleman finds himself in a situation with Mohamed Salah breathing down his neck. Now he's got two options for me. He either lumps the ball up in the air. He's got three options actually. He lumps the ball up in the air and allows everybody to sort of try and get back in position and then challenge for the header. He lashes it into the stand and puts it out for a throw-in. Or he tries to take it down and control it, and Mohamed Salah nicks it off him and runs on one-on-one with Jordan Pickford. What happened? He tried to take it down and control it. Mohamed Salah run one-on-one with Jordan Pickford. And as I said, circa goal number 2, take what I said about the second goal and, duplicate it and imprint it here. You cannot give Mohamed Salah a chance like that. You simply can't. This isn't a bang average Premier League striker who might score a one-on-one, might miss a one-on-one. This is one of the most informed forward players on the planet. If he gets a one-on-one, and also, by the way, one of the most confident forward players on the planet as well. If he gets a one-on-one, he's scoring it. It's as simple as that. He gets one-on-one with the goalkeeper, Jordan Pickford. It's not the greatest shot it's taken, but it does enough to get past Pickford. And it's 3-1. And from that point on, I felt like the entirety of Goodison Park, every Evertonian within that ground, including the 11 on the pitch and the however many sat in the dugout, including the manager Rafa Benitez, knew at that point that was it. It was game, set and match. It just completely took the wind out of our sails. And we were, for me, you can call me a pessimist, you can call me negative, you can call me whatever you want. We were never getting back in the game from that point on. We were never getting back in the game from that. As soon as it went 3-1, that was it. Heads dropped, no determination, no desire. And this is where I have a problem with the players. We'll talk about Seamus Coleman and Marcel Brands in a moment, but this is where I have a problem with the rest of the squad, is that we'd conceded a third. Okay, it was another mistake. We were, it was a simple goal to concede, but we still had half an hour to go in that game, 35 minutes to get back into it. And I'm not saying that we would have, got back and scored an extra 2. I'm not saying that we'd have, got back in the game and equalised. But what I'm saying is we had half an hour to pick our heads up and go, do you know what, lads? We were much better at the end of the second half, and we've been much better at the start of this, first half, and we've been much better at the start of this second half. Get your heads up, go again, work hard. Half an hour to go and give everything. You give everything you've got, you concede another 3 or 4. It is what it is. But we didn't. We just stopped. And it was sort of reeking of that defeatist mentality that runs throughout this football club, that comes from the top, i.e. members of the board smiling when we're losing 4-1 at home to Liverpool, and it reeks all the way down into the players. I know of a lot of Premier League clubs who in that situation have gone, stupid goal to concede that, but we've done all right in the last 10 minutes, so get your head up and go again. And it continued to put the pressure on, and just gone again before, gone again as we did, at the start of the second half and at the end of the first half, as if we hadn't conceded. Keep going, fight, show that passion, show that desire, because that would have lifted the crowd back up again. Had, a couple of minutes after the third goal gone in, the players that got back into it and again forced, got the high press and, ran into brick walls for Everton and got into good areas and, maybe got a corner, the crowd would have lifted again, because everyone would have looked and gone, alright, big task, but got half an hour to score 2 goals, not beyond the realms of possibility at all. But they didn't. This group of players once again shit themselves. This group of players once again dropped their heads and just thought, that's it, done and dusted, may as well go home. And I can't even be bothered talking about the 4th goal, because that's exactly what it was. Jota gets into a good area, good spin, and puts it in the back of the net. And yes, Jordan Pickford should probably do a little bit better, but at that point, the entire Everton squad had gone home at that point. I think he brought Delph on, who who didn't really do anything. I forgot to rate Delph in the instant match in the player ratings actually. I knew we made 3 substitutions. For anyone that wants to know what Delph's rating is, Delph gets an NA because I don't even know if he touched the ball. But yeah, RB Com says, what's up, mate? Juve fan turning in is right. You'll know RB Com's from a lot of compilations on Twitter. Thank you very much for joining in. I'm not great, but yeah, as I said, as soon as that third goal went in, that was it. It was done and dusted. And it's that mentality of players that, again, that's where the players get held up for blame for me yesterday. The manager tactically, yes. The board for being an absolute shambles and not understanding how to run a football club. Yes, blame, but the players don't escape the fact that they had half an hour to show a bit of grit, show a bit of fight, and they give up. That was exactly what they did. They give up. And I can't count on both hands how many times in the last 11 games these players have given up. We've won 1 in 11. We were in a Merseyside derby at Goodison Park, and with that half an hour to go, they just fucking thought, whatever. You know, pack up shop, whatever the saying is, shut up shop, and just get off. We're not interested now. And that, I don't want players that do that at this football club. Let's talk about the mistake for the second goal. And then we are going to get back in the live comments. And then we'll finish up the stream. Because I appreciate that we've been rambling for a while. The fourth goal, as I said, at this point it was game, set and match. Liverpool were back in flip-flop mode as they were in the opening 15-20 minutes. They get back in shape. Break again. Midfield all over the place. Alan and Decore at this point were just everywhere, and not in a good way, all over the place. Defensively, we were a shambles. Jota gets in, takes it round, makes it 4-1, game, set and match. But let's talk about the Seamus Coleman situation. As I said in the instant match reaction yesterday, I'm beyond the point of criticising Seamus Coleman at the moment. I'm just beyond it, and the reason I'm beyond it is because I feel sorry for Seamus Coleman, and I think he's been hung out to die by the football club. I really, really do. Listen, the reality of the situation is I love Seamus Coleman as much as the next Evertonian. However, he shouldn't be anywhere near this Everton team. If you're enjoying, by the way, hit that thumbs up button. He shouldn't be anywhere near this Everton team. And he shouldn't have been anywhere near this Everton team for the last 3 or 4 years. Now, I heard a lot of people yesterday saying that's not Marcel Brands' fault because Marcel Brands had the deal lined up for Denzel Dumfries and Rafa Benitez said no to it. Rafa Benitez has been at Everton for, 5 months, 6 months, something like that. Seamus Coleman has needed replacing for 3 or 4 years. Seamus Coleman should have been replaced the same year Luca Dean was brought in to replace Leighton Baines. If not that year, certainly the year after. Certainly the year after without any question whatsoever. And he wasn't. So, I'm not interested in hearing this. It's not Marcel Brands' fault. It absolutely is Marcel Brands' fault. He's had 4 years to replace Seamus Coleman, and he hasn't. And even if that situation that's going round is true, is the state that Rafa Benitez said no to Denzel Dumfries, Marcel Brands should have been saying, listen, you don't get a choice in this one. I'm the director of football, and we're in desperate need of a right back, so we're signing this fella. And then if the manager didn't want to pick him in the squad, then we couldn't have a go at Marcel Brands because we could say, well, he signed a right back and the manager's not choosing him, that's the manager's fault. But you don't just say, well, if you don't want him, then we're not buying no one. Marcel Brands brought Jibril Sidibe in 3 years ago, 2 years ago now, clearly because Seamus Coleman was coming towards the end of his career at Everton. And Jibril Sidibe was deemed not good enough, fair enough, and we still never decided to go out in Ancelotti's first summer when we had money, or even this summer just gone, and go and sign a right back. It's nonsense, and it's absolutely Marcel Brands' fault. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. I get that completely. I really, really do. However, I won't stand for any other than that's the recruitment team's fault. Absolutely Marcel Brands' fault. If we were only needing to have a new right back this summer, then I'd say, okay, maybe. We've needed a new right back for 4 fucking years. That's on the director of football. Simple as that. And as I said, I feel sorry for Seamus Coleman. I really, really do, because he's being hung out to dry by the football club. He shouldn't be playing for Everton week in, week out. I'm not saying he shouldn't be at the club. I'm not saying he shouldn't be, there as an experienced player, somebody off the bench, an option, a little bit like Leighton Baines was in his last season, but he shouldn't be starting games for Everton. The fella is just, and I know Mohamed Salah is one of the best forwards in the world, and I get that, but we've seen even in recent weeks against bang average Premier League players, he just isn't good enough anymore. And I feel sorry for Seamus, because there's a saying going around, which is obviously a comic book saying, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain or something like that. And that is obviously massively extreme, and I'm not saying Seamus Coleman will ever become a villain, but I do fear that it's going to get to the point where if Seamus Coleman had been moved on at the right time, we'd have sat here as Evertonians and gone, remember Seamus, he was boss, he was determined, he'd score goals, he'd get assists, he cared, he worked hard for the football club, he was brilliant in his day. Whereas because of these extra 2 or 3 years, I feel like we're going to be sitting here saying, remember Seamus was absolutely dog awful for 3 years before he left the football club, made mistake after mistake after mistake, and I do think that it unfortunately will tarnish his reputation at the football club, and that isn't down to Seamus Coleman. Seamus Coleman is turning up and doing a job. It's as simple as that. He ain't going to turn up and say, I'm not playing. He ain't going to turn up and walk away. He obviously feels like he can give something, and that's fine. You can still give something to the club. You can still be a member of the squad, but not start every week. And that's where Seamus needs to be now. He can't be starting every week. And I get, there's no other option. You've only got John Joe Kenny, and I get that. John Joe Kenny's shite as well. He shouldn't be starting every week. But 4 years Marcel Brands has had to replace bring in a right back. He was like that with Luca Dean and Seamus Coleman. Luca Dean and Leighton Baines. He was like that straight away. A month, within taking the job, Luca Dean was in. Leighton Baines become the number 2 left back, and I remember thinking, it's great. He's making these active decisions. This is brilliant. He's not done that with Seamus Coleman, and that is a failure on Marcel Brands' role. Nobody else's. Marcel Brands and the recruitment team. And if it isn't a failure on Marcel Brands, and Marcel Brands is sitting watching this thinking, I wanted 15 right backs this summer, but the board told me no, or the manager told me no, come out and say that then. Come out and, because if I was Marcel Brands, going back to what I said before, there's two options. He's either not being allowed to do his job, or he's not very good at doing it. If it was the first, then he's not being allowed to do his job. Not only would I expected him to have not signed a new contract and ultimately walked away because he's not being allowed to do his job, but if you were thinking, if anyone watching, there's 256 people watching, by the way, unbelievable support, thank you all very, very much. If you're enjoying, leave a like, don't forget to subscribe if you're new. But if you were in your workplace and you were given a role and you weren't allowed to do that role because other people were doing it for you and taking it off you and doing it badly, and then you were getting all of the stick for that and they were getting away with it, would you put up with that? I wouldn't. I'd either say, I'm getting off here, or I'd come out and say, don't be blaming me. These lot are doing it for me and aren't doing it, right. I wouldn't sit there and take all the blame and then stay in the job. It doesn't make sense. But yeah. Anyway, the Merseyside derby ended with a 4-1 defeat. As I said at the start of the team, massive issues. The issues at this football club are, if you could put them in a nutshell and almost say, give me a summary of what Everton is at the moment, it was that statement from Farhad Moshiri today. Not necessarily because of his stance on Rafa Benitez, but because he deemed it acceptable to run to his mates in the media rather than coming and addressing us as fans. Ultimately, it's another embarrassing defeat. It's another embarrassing performance, and as I said, rightly or wrongly, unfortunately, at this point in time, I can't see a way back for Rafael Benitez. I really, really, really can't. Minor positives from yesterday, just before we get back in the comments and finish up. In fact, we'll get back in the comments and finish up, and then we'll do a minor positive thing to end on. Nina says, Ross Barkley back in January to keep you up, not a chance. James says, Mason is forever an Everton hero for pushing into the crowd. Jack says, we're not allowed to spend due to FFP. Isn't that Brand's responsibility? Make sure we don't get foul on that sort of stuff. Well, even if we weren't allowed to spend a penny, we signed two wingers for minimal price. You're not telling me that there wasn't a competent right back out there that we could have gotten in a similar situation on loan. You're not telling me that there wasn't a good young right back we could have gotten on loan that could have come in and done a job for a year. Jack says 2 points in the league table. 2 points in 8 league games. Benitez must surely go. Not for being a FSW, but for being a failure. Max says, realistically, what manager can we get him? I don't know, mate. I don't know. Andrew says, feel bad for Evertonians, but after injuring Van Dijk, that's a nonsense, isn't it, really? Because what's that got to do with Evertonians? Yeah. The Matty Boo says, you know what though? What we getting out of Coleman now is still worth 60 grand. But ultimately, he shouldn't be playing, though, should he? He shouldn't be playing. The live comments are getting as what Goodison was getting yesterday. To be honest, there's a lot of just fume now, and Liverpool fans winding Everton fans up. And look, none of us want to see Goodison as to what it was yesterday. It was horrible in that last 10 minutes. You know, people getting arrested, throwing things on the pitch. You know, players confronting fans, and rightly so. You know, fans confronting the board and players, rightly so. The anger's there, but that's not what we want to see. I believe there was a bit of tension in the stands between Evertonians. We're just at this point the most divided we've ever been as a football club, and as I said, the board needs to go for me. The board needs to go. But we're going to talk about that in a separate live stream over the coming days or so. Obviously, we'll have the preview to the Arsenal game out tomorrow as well. Was Nkunku loaned out to save money? I don't know, but I doubt it. Jamie says, Holgate is awful, bad attitude, guaranteed to give away free kicks in bad locations, and his arrogance doesn't tell me it's a bad idea. Jack says, if he's being prevented from his job, why take an extension to his employment? I agree. Sam says, does everyone who lives in Liverpool talk like this? Probably not, no. Paul says, new subscriber here, great to see you, mate, absolutely good and delusional today. Where on earth do we go from here? Old club is clueless, why can't they see it? Spot on, mate, thank you very much for subbing as well. If he loved Everton, can he hang up his boots? He knows he's not good enough. We love him, but he should do it Gary Neville and admit he's nowhere near Premier League level anymore, says Leanne. He might be near Premier League level, as in a squad player, but he's not a starter week in, week out. And the Matty Boo says, spot on, Cam, that's on everyone at the club except Rafa. Oh, Jack's explained it. Did you see Denise Barrett Baxendale smiling, lad? What's that about? Yeah, there you go. Matty says we need our soul back. Surely this can't be allowed to fester. Make the changes now to allow us to move forward and compete again. And Lavid says, on paper, maybe you would sack Rafa, but I'm not sure with the Everton board. They've already said they're going to back him, haven't they? But anyway, look, Robbo's back in the comments. Is right, mate. Clearly got nothing better to do with your day, fella. Nice one. Anyway, look, we're going to have to finish it there then, because I've got boxing training in half an hour, and I'm going to go and absolutely knock 10 shades of shite out of a big bag full of sand to take my anger out on. And then I'll probably come back at 8 o'clock and tweet something like, up the toffees, we're boss again. No, I won't. I definitely won't. But I am going to take my anger out on the bag. Listen, if you've enjoyed this one, please do hit the like button. Nearly 250 people watching. That is absolutely unbelievable. It really, really does mean a massive, massive amount to me. If you could hit that thumbs up button, it would mean a really, really great deal. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. As I said, we are going to be back tomorrow evening, afternoonish, with the preview to the game against Arsenal on Monday night. I'm not really looking forward to that one. And I might even try and get another live stream out just purely about the board tomorrow, because I wanted to keep this one about as much about the game as possible, because we literally sat here on Monday in the review to the Brentford game and talked for near enough an hour about the board. But I'm doing a separate live stream on the board. I really, really am. Because it needs to be done. It simply needs to be done. We need to sit down and we need to have a real talk about these individuals and what they offer to Everton Football Club. And if they're offering nothing, then they need to go. Whammy, I know you put a couple of comments in, mate, and I know you're a loyal fan of the channel. Sorry I couldn't get involved with as many of them, but I really, really do appreciate it. As well as everybody else, by the way. The live comments, for the most part, have been very good and very constructive. Being a couple of reds in there, you know, trying to wind people up. But listen, if you're a red watching and you try and wind any Evertonian, it is literally impossible for you to wind an Evertonian up more than this football club winds us up. It's impossible. It's simply impossible. Connor says, what did Brand say in that video? He said, is it all on the players, or is it all about the players? Something like that. But yeah, there you go. If you've enjoyed this one, please hit that like button once again. Massive thank you to everybody in the live comments. Really, really do appreciate it. And if you're watching as a YouTube video, please do leave your comments in the comment section, and we will be getting involved with as many of them as we possibly can. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. We will be back tomorrow with the Arsenal preview, and if I don't do the board stream tomorrow, I'll do it over the coming days or so. Might do it on Saturday. When he says no worries, come out at me. It is right, mate. Might do it on Saturday. And it'll probably be titled "Where Do We Go From Here?" Part 2, because I've done a live stream saying "Where do we go from here?" when Carlo left. But yeah, that is definitely a conversation for a different night. But anyway, another embarrassing defeat. Another shit show derby performance. One that I don't think many were surprised about, but certainly one that hopefully is a turning point for this football club, because it certainly needs to be a turning point for this football club, because it's simply not good enough anymore. And as the Bullens View lads quite rightly put on a banner, we demand nil satis nisi optimum. It's about time our club did too, and I couldn't agree with that any more. So there you go. Everton 1, Liverpool 4 in the Merseyside derby. Where do this football club go from here? I don't know. If you've enjoyed this one, leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe. If you're new, if you watched the YouTube video, leave your thoughts down below, and we'll get involved with as many of them as we can. Big thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues. Nice one. See you after.